Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Jewellers Academy podcast. My name is Elin Horgan. I'm a jewellery designer and maker, and I also mentor students on the Jewellers Academy Diploma in Silver Jewellery. So I'm really excited today because I've actually got one of my former students to talk to. Jen Morant-Smith is going to talk about her experiences of the Diploma in Silver Jewellery. Jen is a jeweller specialising in lovingly handmade pieces created from recycled silver and other sustainable materials, and she undertook the diploma programme in 2022-23. Now, I know at Jewellers Academy we talk a lot about the diplomas and all the amazing skills that you can learn on them, but there's nothing quite like hearing it directly from jewellers who've had that first-hand experience. So, welcome, Jen.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Thanks so much for joining me today. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your jewellery business?
Absolutely. So I started silversmithing in 2017, and very quickly I kind of got very excited about the whole recycled, repurposed eco element of jewellery. Obviously, a lot of jewellery materials involve mining and things that can be a little bit destructive, and I was very excited by working with recycled metals, the joy that you can recycle silver, melt it down and repurpose it infinitely is exciting to me. So that's kind of where I started working with recycled metals, and from there I moved on to exploring what other materials I could work with that were kind of found. I work a lot with sea glass and pottery, found pottery on the beaches, which again, I like the idea of taking something that's kind of junk and making it into something precious and meaningful. And sea glass and pottery, I think, has quite a connection to a lot of people, memories of beach holidays and family holidays and things. So that seems to connect a lot with people. And from there, it's kind of snowballed, really. I'm exploring other materials. I'm working more and more with kind of repurposed plastics like surfite and fordite and recycled bowling balls, that kind of thing. So finding ways to kind of take what a lot of people consider junk, and making it into something, that's precious and meaningful and fun. So that's kind of my motivation. So yeah, that's what I'm up to at the moment.
That's fantastic. That sounds quite exciting as well, taking pieces, as you say, that sort of other people might see as rubbish, but then turning them into something that has that value that jewellery has.
Absolutely. And I think particularly when I'm at markets and things, people, when you explain what these things are, they're like, well, what stone is this? I'm like, it's actually plastic. But it has a value and it has a beauty, and and it's unique. I really like it.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you sort of initially get into jewelry making? Like, what was it that appealed to you? Why did you start exploring it as a medium?
I think I've always been crafty. I did a lot of art night schools when I was younger, but I never, for some reason, did the smithing course on the night school. I did pottery and all those other things. And then in 2017, it was quite a rough year for me and my family. I was in quite a hard place, and I was a stay-at-home mum to my 3-year-old son. And I think I just needed a creative outlet. I needed something in my life that was crafty and fun and something separate from being a mum. And I did a 1-week-long jewellery summer school and just got instantly hooked from there. So then when my son started nursery, I started doing one morning a week with a local jewellery teacher, and I learnt a lot from her. And then from there, my husband bought me a Craft jewellery starters kit for Christmas, and so I started playing in my garage. So I kind of pushed some boxes out of the way, started playing in my garage surrounded by boxes and cobwebs, and I just it went from there, really, and kind of snowballed or grew slowly.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people can relate to, that thing of kind of maybe trying lots of different creative outlets and then suddenly having that connection with making jewelry. It's like, oh yeah, this is the one. This is the thing that really, that really
and it's
does
fascinating because people constantly say to me, like, oh, you've got to have such an eye for detail and so delicate. And I'm like, well, it is delicate, and you do need an eye for detail, but actually most of it is hammers and fire, and it's difficult. And I really like that last bit when you take it out the polishing machine, and it's gone from being a dull piece of metal to something really pretty, and that never gets old, I don't think.
No, there's definitely something quite magical about that. And I think you're right. It's a strange combination of very fine sort of detail work, but also a lot of kind of bashing with hammers and shaping great big bits of metal and whatnot.
Absolutely. I think that's
You were saying You were saying you started by doing a course and then working with a local jeweler. Is that kind of how, did you also do, teach yourself with online courses and things, or did you go more down the kind of face-to-face route?
Mainly down the face-to-face route, and then COVID kicked in and all that stopped. I then did a little bit. I mean, there's lots of YouTube tutorials and things out there. By that point, I was relatively confident with the basics, so I was kind of exploring at home, my own style, I think. Yeah, and from there, it kind of, I think, what happened? I think probably I started making for friends and family, and then I think one day a school mum asked me for Mother's Day if I'd make her. I made like little pebble pendants with initials on, out of recycled metal, and school mum asked me if I'd make her one for Mother's Day, and so that was kind of the beginning of my kind of, well, actually maybe this could be something that I could do as a job. Yeah, so that was a bit.
So what was that, what kind of made you decide to start your business? I mean, was that something that you'd thought about when you started making and realized that you really loved it? I could turn this, or was it more just you were seeing it as a hobby at that point?
Initially, it was a hobby, and then I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome that we all that word that comes up. It's so true. Like, you think, oh, I love doing this, and people tell me my stuff's good, but I've got no formal qualifications. Because I think there was a little bit of, who am I to just start selling? But you hold yourself back sometimes, don't you? So I think other people asking me if they could buy things from me kind of gave me that kind of confidence to start. Yeah, so that was exciting. Yeah, and then from there, a friend of mine who was also on the course wanted to do a market at our local town, and so she kind of encouraged me to come and do that with her. So I took like about 10 pieces of my jewellery, and it went so well. It was just like the push I needed. Yeah, actually, I think I need to do more of this.
That's brilliant. I think sometimes you're absolutely right. I think we can hold ourselves back by thinking, oh, it's got to be absolutely perfect. It's got to be completely amazing. But of course, other people do find it completely amazing. And there's nothing like that feeling of turning up somewhere to sell your jewelry and actually getting loads of amazing positive feedback, and people love it and they're buying it. And yeah, there's no greater endorsement.
And people are like, oh, I could never do this. I'm like, you could. You just you need tools with jewelry, and you need some basic knowledge. But it's, anyone can do it if they want to. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So where does your inspiration come from? Is it all about sort of finding a piece, and then maybe it's a piece of pottery or a piece of plastic, and kind of working your design around that, or do you do it in another way?
No, absolutely. It's working with the piece. Part of the course that was interesting was the design element, and talking about how you design, because I feel like I don't design, I just make. But that in itself is a way of designing, isn't it? You take the piece and you just pick it up and say, right, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
So that's definitely the way I work, and sometimes it takes you to amazing places, and you design a whole new collection around it, and sometimes like, oh no, I've got that one work so well. But yeah, and the other inspiration is just the recycled materials, really. That's a big inspiration for me, and it's getting easier every year to work with recycled materials, because the offering from places like Cookson are so much better, and it's more and more recycled metal.
Yeah.
Available.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. That's great. So I'm interested, given that you were already making jewellery, what made you decide to enroll on the diploma in silver jewellery? Because I guess it's, to me, it sounds like, well, you already had quite a lot of the skills. So what was it that pushed you into doing that?
I think I wanted a more formal qualification. Again, like I mentioned before, I think maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome creeps in when you're selling, but you don't have anything to back it up. And I know in my head, like, if anyone else said that to me, I'd be like, no, make good stuff, go for it. But there was something in the back of my mind. I want something more formal. And I think, giving myself the confidence to, take further steps in my business. So yeah, I was aware of Jewellers Academy. I followed them, and so those kind of adverts coming up, or the information about the course on Instagram. I actually booked a consultation with one of the team because I wasn't quite sure, and had a really helpful chat with one of the consultation chat. And from there, I just decided to just leap in and go for it, really.
That's great. So in terms of the consultation, was that to help you decide which diploma to do, or whether, yeah.
So the hesitation I had really is I felt, because I was already making and selling, my skills sat some midway between the diploma and the advanced diploma. I could do a fair chunk of the first diploma, but there were some gaps. And stone setting has always been my nemesis. The advanced diploma felt like a bit of a reach. So it was really helpful to talk to the lady about, what might be the most beneficial. And I'm actually a great believer that you can always learn more. So actually, I decided that recapping some existing skills could be a really positive thing. You learn different ways to do things. Yeah. So in the end, I decided to go for the diploma and just enjoy the fact that I've, got a few basic skills already, and just, try and use it to up my skill level.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think it's I think you're right. Sometimes it is about building confidence in those skills yourself, and also just finding other ways of doing things, because I think that's one of the interesting thing about the diploma in silver jewellery. Each mentor, each tutor teaches things differently. And so, you'll get different approaches to things, some which you might find useful, some less useful, but that's kind of one of the joys of doing it, I think. Yeah. So when you decided, obviously, that the silver diploma was the one for you, what were your thoughts, given that you've done a lot of in-person courses beforehand? What were your thoughts on doing something online? Was that something you were slightly apprehensive about, or were you quite happy that was going to work well for you?
I wasn't apprehensive, but I was intrigued to see how it was going to work. I think in some ways I felt like I had a bit of an advantage because I kind of knew some of the basic skills. But actually, I think I was surprised at how well it went, even for the things I didn't know anything about. But because the videos are very clear, you can watch them beforehand. You can then watch them again while you're making. You can rewind and play and pause. And I did a lot of that. Like, with something I was struggling with, I'd go back, play it again. And the course notes are really comprehensive, so you can read those beforehand, print them out if you need to. And I think the online community just comes into its own as well in terms of support and sharing struggles. And I think overall, no, I don't think the online was a barrier at all.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think that's always one of the things I think is a major advantage of doing something online that has those pre-recorded videos, is that if you're in a live class and you miss something, quite often that can be the only moment there was to see how that technique was done. Whereas you're right, you can rewind and rewatch as many times as you like, and even go back to it at a later date just to refresh your knowledge and skills, which is always really useful.
I think I did park a couple of weeks, whether I wasn't in the right headspace, or I'll go back to that. So you can kind of drop in and out if you need to, well, can't you? So that helps.
Yeah. So you mentioned there about the online community. Can you tell us a bit more about that, in terms of how you found the support from the Facebook group and other students?
Yeah, for me, I think this was one of the best parts about the course. The Facebook group is incredibly helpful. So the tutors and the admin continue to support you there outside of the videos. And I think the fellow students all really championed each other. A lot of us shared our makes and our frustrations, and it was very supportive. And I just really loved so we're all given the same brief each week, but the way everyone interprets it and shares their designs is really, really fascinating and quite inspiring. And there was no competition, if you were inspired and impressed by people's creativity, and I found that wonderful. And there was some uber arty, very people who've done a lot of silversmithing before who wowed us, but actually equally wowing other people that had come to it, knowing some of these people had never even picked up never soldered before, and the bounds and the leaps that they were making and the designs that they were making were equally amazing. So I think it was a really supportive and inspiring community, definitely.
That's so nice to hear, because I always think that's one of the things that makes the diplomas so special, is that you have that support of the community, and that's, you know, that's something that you don't get from just watching a YouTube video. I think it can be really, as you say, it can be really inspiring and sort of push you on to do better work as well, which is brilliant.
Absolutely. And you come across such a diverse range. I mean, if you're doing a course in a room with people, again, that's got other positives, but you know, there's what, 5-10 of you, whereas, you know, there were many of us, and you really get to know some people and get a real breadth of inspiration and work. It was, yeah, brilliant.
Right, that's great. So overall, how did you find the program? I know you were saying before that you covered some of the techniques already, and there were some that were new to you. But how did you find it?
I loved it. I think I got a lot of confidence in the first term, realising how all those hours I'd already put in at home had helped me. I think there's sometimes no substitute for just putting in time and doing the hours, especially with skills like soldering. You have to be taught the science of how it works, but then you just need to practice and practice until it almost becomes like instinctive, doesn't it? And you just know what's going to happen when the solder flows. So it was a great mix of recapping and also learning new skills. And just because I've done something before didn't mean that I found it easy necessarily. Yeah, so yeah, it was. And then I think the final project and seeing everybody else's final project come to fruition was definitely a high. Yeah, I think it was amazing.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to see, as you said, how people progress, and the fact that there is a huge range of skills starting out. Some people who will never have held a blowtorch or a saw or done any sort of jewellery making before, and then those like yourself with a bit more experience. But it's amazing to see how everyone progresses. Those final projects are fantastic, I think.
They really are good fun, yeah.
So what were the kind of, dare I say, the sort of highs and the lows? Were there any weeks you found particularly frustrating, or anything that you absolutely loved that you hadn't tried before?
Highs and lows. I think the stone setting was always going to be my nemesis. I mean, I love a cabochon, but the kind of flush and prong setting and those more technical stone settings I found tricky, and they were the gaps, some of the gaps in my knowledge anyway. But actually, I think I took a lot from that. I think I just learned that I'm never going to be a fine jeweler, but that's okay. Learning what you don't want to do is actually as important as learning what you do want to do. So it's a bit of a full circle moment where I was glad I didn't choose the advanced diploma, because there's more of that on there. And learning, I'm okay, my style is rustic, my style's textural, and that's what I'm inspired to create. So actually, yeah, I've come away with a lot of, I've done away with a lot of the kind of what if niggles about what else I should be doing. It's helped me hone my style. Trying lots of different techniques means I have more of an idea of which ones I really want to concentrate on. So I think even the challenges and hard bits were not a wasted experience. Kite week, I think. Anyone who's done the diploma, kite week was horrible.
Everyone hates that. Everyone hates
you learn something from it, don't you? So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that first term is all about just really kind of nailing down those basic skills. So definitely that kite project is always a bit of a sticking point for people.
Really is, yeah.
Anyone who hasn't done the diploma and is doing it, you'll know what we're talking about soon enough. But it's also brilliant for practicing all of the sawing, filing, soldering skills as well.
And the solidarity in adversity, isn't there? We all looked out for each other online, so we all got through it.
Exactly. It's interesting what you said as well about maybe knowing what you don't want to do as much as what you do want to do, and possibly knowing that you can do a claw setting or a flush setting, but that you actually don't necessarily want to incorporate that into your work is quite a valuable process to go through.
Absolutely, and I could have gone either way. I could have got to this and said, I'm finding this hard, but this is the style I really want to do, and then I'd have gone on and do the advanced diploma, and that would be absolutely some people's route. But yeah, I just felt like, do you know what? This isn't the style I want to do. It's beautiful and I love it, and I am capable of learning it if I dedicated more time to it. But actually, no, yeah, it was an opportunity for me to really think about where I wanted to go as a designer and stick in my lane and be confident about it, definitely.
Right, that's good to hear. So other than the kite, was there anything in particular that you found challenging, like any other techniques? Or you talked a bit before about the design and drawing maybe not
Yeah,
being sort of intuitive to you.
I'm not a fine artist, so I found the kind of detailed drawing tricky. But again, learning that that's just not the way I work. But also having those skills, like, it did push me to develop those skills. So, you know, if I do have a customer who needs a more detailed diaring, to have confidence to, you know, make the leap and give me their money I am now more confident to do that, and how to do a nice design, and because quite often they're just a scribble on a bit of napkin or something. Some people are confident enough to go with me on that, and some are. So no, I feel like I still have developed those skills. But also confidence that just that's my design process is different, and that's okay. Yeah, and the other thing that I think when you were my tutor, the thing that kept coming back to at the evaluation stage was kind of the challenge was actually my finishing, and I found that really helpful, actually, to have kind of someone who could really hone down on my challenges and push me further. So yeah, I enjoyed that.
That's interesting. And what were those things that really kind of set you alight? Were there any new techniques you learned that you thought, wow, this is brilliant and I'm going to incorporate it into my work? Or was it more just about kind of finding joy in those things that you were already quite familiar with?
There were quite a lot of things that I want to explore more, and sometimes I just have to slow down and you can't go off and do everything. But silver clay is definitely something that I'd like to explore more, and I feel like I have the confidence to start that journey. And the other thing I really enjoyed was rivets and hinges and things, and I haven't yet started incorporate. Did a little bit of that in my final design, but yeah, that's quite a simple technique, but not something I tried before, and something about the movement I quite like. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try and think about how to incorporate that more in the future.
That's great. So we talked a bit about the Facebook group online as well, but what about for people that don't know, part of the support you get on the Diploma in Silver Jewellery is that you get a fortnightly question and answer session. So that's a group Zoom call with your mentor, and you get the chance to ask questions about the previous couple of weeks. If you've got stuck with anything, or you're finding something particularly challenging, or there's something useful that you want to share with the rest of the group. How did you get on with those calls? Were they helpful?
Yeah, they were very helpful, and I quite like. There's no pressure to join in, or if you didn't want to put your screen on that week, that was absolutely fine. You could sit and listen. We all feel like that. And you can listen and learn, or if you've got 10 questions, you can engage with it in any way you liked. And hearing other people's challenges again is always very supportive. And I like the fact that you can watch them back. So if you can't make it, life gets in the way, then you can watch them back. And also, if you miss it or something, you can always go back to the Facebook group and ask questions that way. So no, I think the different mediums of communication all kind of add to the support in a really nice way. So there's definitely something for everyone there in terms of how you want to engage.
And I think it's different for different people, isn't it? As to excuse me, as to what you're actually comfortable with in terms of how you interact with the rest of the group.
Absolutely.
But it's nice to know there's different options for sure.
Yeah, and you get to know a few of the jewellers a bit better as well, obviously, in the smaller group. So it becomes a bit more intimate. Yeah, that's also really helpful.
So the other element, obviously, is that then at the end of each term, you send your work in for marking to your mentor. And then there's a Zoom call, just a one-to-one Zoom call, where you have that feedback on each week's piece. How did you find that? Because obviously that's the chance to really get into the detail. I'm not going to try and sway your answer. Obviously, I was your mentor. You can say it was fantastic.
Actually, I think this is probably my other favourite bit. I think as a maker, like, your friends and family is always going to tell you your work's amazing, and with customers, if they like it, they'll tell you, and if they don't like it, generally sometimes they still say they like it, or they just move on without saying anything. So you don't actually often get that critical voice. So I think the mentor feedback really gave me the opportunity to get some really detailed, constructively critical feedback in a way that I wouldn't get anywhere else. And the same feedback came back from you I think every term, and that was fine. I knew what I needed to improve on, and otherwise I don't think I'd have necessarily known about that. Yeah, I think, and different people have different learning styles. Like I know not everybody likes that experience, and I'm sure if you do, if you struggle with that bit, your tutor would be much more gentle. But I think I kind of asked, I need to know, pick apart. I need to know what I can do better. And for me, that was really, really helpful to get a critical voice. And we had chats, the wider chats, didn't we, about how to embrace your weaknesses, like make them part of your work. Like I seem to always end up with things that are a bit asymmetrical, but actually if you make that deliberate and more pronounced, then actually that can become part of your style, and that kind of bouncing ideas off you as well was also really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's always that. I always say to students, it's that sort of intentionality. It's like whatever you're doing in your work, you want to make it look as though that's what you meant to do. And as you say, maybe that is leaning into, in your case, asymmetry or more, yeah, or a more textured finish or whatever it might be. But I think all those things are interesting to chat about. And you're right, it's nice to have a conversation that's maybe a bit broader than purely just the sort of week to week pieces that you've been working on, and that's a great opportunity to do that in those one-to-ones, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I got a lot from it, thank you.
So what would you say to somebody who's thinking about doing the diploma next year? Any kind of words of wisdom to share with them?
I think I'd just say go for it. I mean, I think the cost of it was an issue for me, but the fact that you can do a payment plan over 18 months helped me afford it. And looking at the final projects made by some of my fellow course mates, I cannot believe that some of them were people who had never even soldered at the beginning of them. So it's a really positive experience, whatever you plan to do with it afterwards, whether you plan to have a jewellery business or you're just doing it for fun. I think it's a really amazing learning curve. And I really like the offer that you can pay for the course, but also you can do the bolt-ons for tools and materials if you need them. So I already have a workshop, so I didn't need the tools, but actually having the opportunity to just have the materials sent to me, and then I didn't have to each week think about, right, what do I need to order? And again, that's all factored into the payment plan. I think that was really helpful and made it affordable. So I think if you're thinking of doing it, just go for it. You won't regret it.
Go for it. Yes, I like that. Just go for it. Is there anything, I mean, I suppose maybe this is more relevant for people who possibly haven't done any jewellery making before, but do you think there's anything that you can do to kind of prepare yourself for the course? Or maybe there's, is there anything you'd have done differently if you were doing it again?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I think probably we all prepare ourselves differently. Like I think if you feel like you need to prepare in advance, there's lots of stuff out there that you could do. I mean, lots of free videos online. Jessica's book's great. But I mean, if you've just rock up and get stuck in on the first day, and even with zero experience, you'll still be all right. So I think if you don't have time to prep, don't panic. It's not a reason not to do it, really. Yeah. I think you'll all learn together. You'll all learn from your epic fails together, pull your hair out together. And I think, so I think I don't have a particular tip really, but just do whatever makes you comfortable. But it certainly shouldn't be a blocker for jumping in and getting involved.
Yeah, and you're right. There are plenty of people doing the course who literally have done no jewelry making before, and I've never seen that be a disadvantage. I think a lot of it's just about your approach to the course, and if you're committed to doing it and up for learning from your mistakes and kind of having fun along the way, then that's really what makes the difference, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, I totally agree.
So, okay, it's great to hear more about your experiences, but what's next for you in terms of your jewellery business and the direction you're going in?
Yeah, so I feel like Jewellery Academy definitely helped me fill my gaps and explore new techniques, and I think I feel more reassured about what I know and what I can do, and I've cemented my style a little bit more. So I think really for me it's just continuing to grow my business. Also, I think there's that saying, you need to spend time on your business as well as in my business. I think I need to work on my website and my PR skills and those kind of things. And then just continue to explore eco techniques and materials is a constant journey for me. I'm quite interested in like fiddle jewellery and texture and things like that, and how people use jewellery to comfort them. So it's not just a fashion choice, it's actually something that they use to help them on a day-to-day basis, whether that's the kind of texture of sea glass or the difference between matte and shiny or having moving parts. That's something I'm very inspired by. So I think that's what I'm going to explore in the quiet times in January and February.
That sounds really interesting. Definitely something that could fit with your interest in making the rivets and things that
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
So we'll see where that takes me.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I mean, any particular ambitions you have for your business kind of into the future? Any, where do you kind of see yourself going?
Um, that's a tricky one. Part of me would like to be a jewellery academy tutor. I'm only half joking. Uh, I certainly very keen to find ways to make my creative business connect with other people. I'm very interested in crafting and creative arts as a tool for improving your mental health, coping with grief, and with the challenges of being neurodiverse. I'm neurodiverse and I've suffered from anxiety and depression and had my life turned upside down by grief. But I think creative arts and silversmithing in particular has been a key part of me being okay with who I am as myself. It's kind of mindful, it's expressive, it's non-judgmental. So I know I'm not the only one. Many kind of neurodiverse people end up working for themselves as a traditional workplace. It does not, does not fit them. So I'm really keen to explore why and how being creative helps people kind of with grief and their mental health. So that's something I would really like to explore in the future as well.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. I think there's definitely those sorts of therapeutic benefits to all making that maybe aren't kind of, we don't shout about them enough sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I think most people who make do it for a reason. Yeah. Or even if it's just a side benefit, I think it's creating is definitely brilliant for your brain.
Yes, for sure. Okay, that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Jen. It was great to hear more about your experiences. Would you like to share where people can come and connect with you online?
Absolutely. So I have a website which is www.thepineinthevalley.com, and you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at thepineinthevalley.com. So yeah, I'm there if anyone would like to find out more.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, please do go and check out Jen's beautiful work. And we'll also pop the links in the show notes just in case you didn't quite catch them there. So thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a fantastic week. All right. Bye.